What's up, fantasy world? Thanks again for joining Tankers Fantasy Football here. Today, we're going to be talking about the NFC North. So, of course, we got the hometown Bears.
We got some Detroit Lions.
We got the Cheeseheads.
And we got some Vikings up there in Minnesota.
But first, before I kick it off, we'll talk about some headlines.
Oh, we got to go with them headlines.
And for these headlines, we're going to be talking about preseason guys who are, maybe their stock rise or maybe fell off a cliff a little bit here. But I think, start off, Melvin Gordon has looked like the guy that San Diego thought they were drafting.
I mean, he's already got 2 more touchdowns in the preseason than he did all of last year.
And he's just...
And they were long ones.
And they're good 40 yards. They're just sprint straight ahead, get crazy on everyone.
He looks spry. He looks like the guy I thought I drafted in one of the leagues I did last year, and he just turned into a complete bum. But this year, you can get him pretty cheap out there. Where's he going, like 7th, 8th round?
I think he's a guy, if you get him as your third running back, he's got some legitimate upside to him. And he's a guy at third, you can let him brew a little bit and make sure he doesn't have any afterthoughts from last season, but I really think this guy has some serious upside.
Oh, if he can take command of this backfield, he could blow it up out there. I mean, he could make Danny Woodhead, irrelevant in the fantasy realms like he used to be. I mean, this guy, they want him to be the guy.
Oh, yeah. He's going a full 2 rounds right now on average later than Woodhead, and Woodhead's stock could be nothing by the end of the year, and we could talk about Melvin Gordon being a keeper in Dynasty leagues.
Oh, I mean, Dynasty leagues is already kept, but you get down into those 4 or 5 keeper leagues, even then, if he can show up this year, he could even enter the keeper argument in those leagues. I mean, that's pretty good, people. I mean, he's looking good. And if he can keep it going, and you just know the Chargers want him to be that guy. They're going to give him every opportunity just like they did last year to be that guy.
And last year, he got the touches, just didn't do anything with them. 0 touchdowns. This offseason, he's been training with Adrian Peterson, and it is paying off. Even on short runs, he is running hard. He is running guys over.
He's hitting the hole like he should be.
And he's got the speed to take it to the house on any play.
Oh, sleeper rounds, mid to late rounds, 7 and 8 on. I think he's my RB target. He's in there with the Rashad Jennings, but I think he's got more upside than Rashad Jennings. Rashad Jennings kind of that higher floor value guy that could enter you into that low end tier 1 running backs. But Gordon's that guy that could be a top 5 running back for you, I think.
And another guy that we're going to actually talk about 2 guys together here, since we're talking about mid-round running backs at target. I think Derrick Henry's in that conversation. Both these guys in this Titan backfield.
Oh, DeMarco Murray?
Incredible so far.
DeMarco Murray and Derrick Henry have looked like studs out there. It's crazy. I mean, if the Titans defense can keep them in games, both of these running backs are just, I don't even care. Owning both of them is great. I'm down with DeMarco Murray in the late 4th, early 5th where he's going. And then even if you don't get DeMarco Murray, you can still get a guy that's going to touch the football enough times to be possibly at least a flex play for you, and Derrick Henry.
And Henry's going about the 8th round, so you don't have to overpay really on any of these guys.
DeMarco Murray, if he can look any way like he did in Dallas, Mike Mularkey wants to run that football. He does. And they could be running the ball combined with these guys over 30 times a game if they're still in the game in the second half. They could have 30 carries a game combined and over.
Even last year, people hated on DeMarco Murray last year, but even last year, he had some respectable games out there. He wasn't a total bust. It was just that offense was just awful, and he didn't look like the same guy in that Chip Kelly system. But now that we're back to the smash mouth, hit the hole hard.
That's what DeMarco Murray wants to do.
Get down the field. I think these guys can both thrive in this offense.
Some under center, conventional style handoffs is what DeMarco Murray wants to do. Not this Chip Kelly stretch play read option. That's not what he wants to do. He wants to I formation it or just single back set and just do right off tackle or between the guards. He ain't no stretch play back. He's a one-cut hammer back.
Talk about another duo. We're going from Tennessee to Cleveland. We all know Coleman drafted first round, but the guys after him, Terrell Pryor and Josh Gordon doing work out there.
I mean, since Josh Gordon is, said he's going to come back, he's only going to have a 4-game suspension. I mean, the hype is real. I've seen him go in the 4th round of 12-team PPR leagues, and that's redraft.
That's crazy.
That's redraft.
And that's nuts.
That is, I mean, that's paying the piper, but I've seen it happen. He went to the 6th round in the league I was doing today. I mean, he went 4th round last night and 6th round today. I mean, people are drafting him like he's there. Once he comes back, they have to start him because they're paying the piper. Like they're playing
this guy. They're drafting him like he's their starter or their flex guy, and he's gonna be out 4 weeks here. But he's a guy that's as much upside of anyone you're drafting in the entire draft, really.
I mean, even look at the other guy out of there's Terrell Pryor. I mean, if you would have shown me a picture of Terrell Pryor in the football field this preseason and didn't tell me what his name was, I'm like, that guy is a beast. He looks the part. He's like 6'4", 230.
Both him and Gordon.
4'5", 40.
They both have the physique of just manhandling corners. They do.
But I mean, yeah, if you didn't tell me his name was Terrell Pryor, I'd be like, where'd this guy come from? He looks tough out there.
2 seasons ago, he was throwing for 500 yards.
And you can get him at the back end of drafts. Like, he's still going 15 rounds or later. You can get him whenever you want. Yeah, and I'm not saying he's going to pan out for you. But if you're digging up these guys in these late rounds.
If you're throwing darts at guys, why not throw?
That's a great dart to throw, I think. I mean, if Josh Gordon somehow doesn't get it together, and Coleman keeps having
injuries.
I mean, it looks like RG3 and Terrell Pryor kind of have a report out there. And Terrell Pryor knows route trees since he played quarterback for so long. I mean, he's got that going for him. He's just, I'm not down paying the 4th or 6th round price for Josh Gordon in 12-team redrafts. But if you're looking to dig up guys like Terrell Pryor in the 18th round, I mean, I think he's worthy throwing a dart. And I wouldn't even have brought up his name a month ago. I wouldn't even have brought up his name. Like, this wouldn't even be a conversation. But he's shown up, like, for reals.
Another last riser here we're going to talk about, Dak Prescott. And we were talking a little bit in the last podcast about he's the preseason warrior out there. But this preseason warrior, he turned into the legitimate week 1 starter.
He's got his shot now. Romo can't keep it together. His body's falling apart. I mean, I think this is the end for Romo. I mean, I really think the Jones family needs to step in and be like, Romo, we don't want you to die on the football field. It's bad publicity, bro. So they need to strap it on. I mean, if this Dak guy can go out there, I mean, Romo can be Drew Bledsoe in no time.
Dak Prescott's looked the part, too. He's putting big numbers out there.
Who's to say Dak Prescott can't do as good as Romo has in the last couple of seasons? I mean, he hasn't been studly.
Yeah, it's not like Romo was putting up 4,500 yards and 45 touchdowns.
He never played. He hasn't played a full season since, 2012? I mean, my goodness.
A few years ago, we were saying if they just get consistent quarterback play, that they can win a Super Bowl. I mean, when they had DeMarco Murray rolling and Dez in there, they just said, just give me consistent quarterback play.
I mean...
And Romo couldn't even do that with injuries.
I mean, Dak Prescott's going to be leaps and bounds better than the Matt Castle bums they ran out there last year. Who's the other bum they ran out there last year?
Brandon Weeden.
Oh, my goodness. Brandon Weeden and Matt Castlebuff. I mean,
he wasn't even good enough for the Cleveland Browns.
No.
So let's get him on the Cowboys.
Let's get him out there, I guess. I don't know, but that's not. I think Dak Prescott at least has upside. I mean, where'd Romo come from? Romo wasn't a high draft pick. He came out of nowhere. I mean, who says Dak Prescott can't come out of nowhere just like Tony Romo did? I mean,
and Dak Prescott actually was making some noise going into the combine. He got into some trouble right before the combine or right before the draft. I don't remember.
Lowered his stock a little bit.
But I mean, this guy in the right system, he's got some weapons around him. He can fit in pretty well, and he can be respectable out there. How do you think Dez stock is now with Romo down and Dak in there?
I'm a little bit more. I mean, I still like Dez, but I feel like he's more of that early second round wide receiver in 12-team PPR drafts now. I mean, I like him there, but I am not taking him. I think you got to take I think you got to start taking running backs over there. I bumped him down. I'd take Gurley and David Johnson. I'd probably even take Gronk over him at this point. I mean, I'm already taking Allen Robinson over him, so.
I would take him after Allen Robinson. I think I would still take him before like a Keenan Allen, a Marshall, Jordy.
Yeah.
Because he's a guy, if he's on the field, if he has a guy throwing to him, he's still going to make plays out there.
Oh, I mean, that touchdown catch he had the other day, that was a terrible underthrown ball by Romo. He just made a great adjustment like Des Bryant does and got her in the end zone. I mean, that wasn't a ball. That play wasn't made by Tony Romo by any means. I think Dak Prescott can at least put the ball where Tony Romo's been putting it.
And we'll kind of transition to the fallers here. Romo, obviously, is a faller. This is a guy who's going to miss, about 8 weeks. He's going to 8 to 10 weeks.
I think he might get Drew Bledsoe out of here. I mean, if this kid shows up and does anything,
if they're in the,
how are you going to bench him?
If they're in the hunt, there's no way.
How are you going to bench him? Romo comes back. They're like 5-3. You can't bench this kid. 5-3, 6-2. Romo comes back. You can't bench this kid.
I agree. I think this could be in for Romo. This could be another Troy Aikman scenario. Chronic back problems in his 30s. They just say, you got to get out of here, bro.
I mean, it's just not worth the risk. We can't keep investing into this type of player. I mean, if Dak Prescott goes out there and does anything, I think Tony Romo is easily out of town next year.
Another quarterback stock took a major hit. Mark Sanchez.
They're trying to shop him, but I don't think they're going to get anything.
Trevor Siemian is making NFL history. This will be the first NFL team in history that is starting a guy week 1 after winning the Super Bowl who has 0 career
pass attempts in the National Football League.
Career pass attempts, 0. This is a guy, I think it was around a 5th round pick, and I don't even think they got him in the 5th round. I'm pretty sure they were planning on having Paxton Lynch.
I mean, that was the guy. That was their boy. But apparently this guy's done enough in camp. I mean, I'm not sure who. I don't even quite sure who he is. So I
don't even know if I pronounced his name right.
I'm not saying by any means don't draft this guy. We're just saying he's relevant now because he's a starting quarterback for a Super Bowl team. But he's not fantasy relevant yet. The book's way out on that one.
I couldn't even believe that Paxton Lynch wasn't starting for him. This Simeon dude, who's looked also bad in preseason.
Yeah, I mean, he won the starting job in a game he threw a pick 6 in. I mean, my goodness. I mean, that's not show-stopping main eventing. I mean, he's just better than Mark Sanchez, who probably turned the ball over 3 times in that game. I mean, when you win the job in a game you threw a pick 6, I mean, that is in no way shining, like getting it done. Like, this is my job. It's just kind of like, you're the least bum. We don't really want to expose Paxton Lynch yet, so we're just going to kind of run you out there until we feel comfortable that Paxton Lynch can play football without ruining his confidence.
Last faller we'll talk about before going into the NFC North here is John Brown. I'm a big John Brown fan, but these concussions are real.
He's been cleared, though. He's off the pup. He just hasn't played in preseason yet. But they've got him. He's dive bombing. Like, he was going mid-6th, 3 weeks ago. And we got him in a 12-teamer last night in the mid-10th round. I mean, that's value.
A 4-round slip in a short span of really. I don't think anything too serious. I mean, he was cleared, but this is a guy last year. He got you 1,000 yards.
1,000 yards and 7 touchdowns out there.
And he was a legitimate flex player all year for you.
I mean, John Brown was our 5th wide receiver. I mean, that's value. That is value, no matter how you draw it up. I mean, I know the concussions are a risk, but in the 10th round, that's where you want to take those high upside risk guys, for sure.
All right, let's get in here. NFC North.
Let's do it.
Start off with the studs.
We got some studs. Now we're going to lead it off with the King Barney himself, Adrian Peterson. Now, Adrian Peterson has had 10 or more touchdowns And every single season he's been in the league, except for the year he was suspended. That's tough. Like, that's some business. And the only year he was short of 1,000 yards was a year he only played 12 games in, but he still had 973. It was the year he tore his ACL. This is incredible. I mean, he's a standard league monster. I mean, in PPR, he kind of takes a dip because the guy's only gone over, 40 catches on like 2 times? I mean, that's not stellar, but he's a standard league monster.
Now, we got to build him up.
Got to build him up a little bit.
But we're going to tell you, even though he's getting drafted late first, maybe sneaking into that early second, I'm not completely sold on it.
I don't know. I mean,
digging up these stats, if we're comparing him to other younger running backs going around that time, we're telling you why to take these younger backs over Adrian Peterson.
I mean, Adrian Peterson, I know he's getting them carries, but I think the wheels are falling off. I mean, if he's not getting these carries, if he's not getting these ridiculous volumes of touches.
Stupid amount of touches.
If he's not getting these, I think he's straight pedestrian. I mean, seriously. I mean, he only had 4 games over 20 points last year, which is not a first-round player value by any means. And he had 4 games? 4 games, 8.2 fantasy points in PPR or worse.
And that's what hurts him in PPR. Like we said, standard monster, the guy just doesn't get many catches.
And this is going to scare the hell out of you, because it scared the hell out of me and Travis. And I tell you, he had 248 fantasy points last year during the regular season on 357 touches.
That averages to 0.7 points a touch.
0.7 points a touch. You know who also had 0.7 points a touch last year? Darren McFadden.
And we're talking about the Cowboys' great offensive line. But if there's a point where Darren McFadden is equal to Adrian Peterson.
And his points per touch, I mean, how is that a first-round draft pick? Talking about Darren McFadden as many points per touch as you? I mean, my goodness, that is not good. You know, and David Johnson had 1.4 points per touch last year.
Twice as many.
Double Adrian Peterson points per touch. I mean, that's the golden shovel.
The guy's the model of consistency over a season span. But if you look at it, he needs the amount of touches. He's not getting catches. He needs all those carries to get you that first-round production.
It took him 357 touches to not even get to 250 fantasy points. I mean, my God. Like, this guy isn't even a 300-point back anymore, and he's going, into the first? I mean, if those touches go down at all?
And it's not like the weapons around him have gotten better.
If those touches go down at all, and Jerick McKinnon has looked pretty decent. I mean, if those touches go down, say 40 or 50, I mean, we're talking out of the top 10 running backs here. We really are.
The touchdowns are really what's saving him. I mean, the double-digit touchdowns, and he needs all the carries he can get in that offense.
Like we said, he's only had 2 seasons over 40 catches. I mean, that's not boss hogging.
All right, another stud here.
Jordy Nelson. Now, Jordy Nelson's a 31-year-old white guy coming off an ACL injury.
But he's my favorite receiver now in the North here.
I mean, he had the last 3 full seasons he's played, he's had over 1,200 yards. I mean, that's pretty sexy.
And averaging 12 touchdowns over that span.
I mean, that's really sexy.
That is getting it done.
I mean, Randall Cobb's out there saying Jordy Nelson looks like the old Jordy Nelson. And while that's good, that's player speak. I mean, it's worth. I mean, Jordy Nelson looking like the old Jordy Nelson. I'm saying that's good for Jordy Nelson. And I'm saying that's also good for Randall Cobb.
And it's also good for Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, because the Packers' offense, stops and starts.
It was
at Jordy Nelson. It really
was worse than the Jags.
I mean, Aaron Rodgers was the 11th quarterback last year without Jordy Nelson. I mean, that is not very good. He was drafted as the top 1, top 2 guy, and he returns you 11th. I mean, that's bad. I mean, what other player removed from a team has affected the entire team like that before?
I mean, it's crazy. You even look at a guy like Kelvin Benjamin, who's not nearly as good. He missed time. That offense kept rolling with Greg Olsen out there.
Cam Newton was throwing to dudes off the street, and Ted Ginn
had 10 touchdowns.
Ted Ginn and dudes off the street. I mean, apparently, Aaron Rodgers and the Packers need that Jordy Nelson. Otherwise, I mean, they can't run dudes off the street.
Let's talk about Rodgers here for a little bit.
Let's get into Rodgers. I mean, this guy is pretty, I know he's a Packer, and I hate him. But he's been, 4 out of the last 5 years, he's averaged over 40 touchdowns. That is amazing. Like, that is really, really good.
And that's total, because he'll get you those rushing touchdowns, too.
Oh, he's getting 3 or 4 rushing touchdowns a year. He's always a little scamper. And he gets like 300-400 rushing yards a year out there. But he hasn't thrown double digits interceptions. He hasn't thrown double digit interceptions since 2010.
And me, I don't really worry about that much, but still, if you can save you, I mean,
you're in
a
these
couple
leagues,
points a week, if there's some leagues where it's 2, sometimes even 4.
I'm in a league that takes 3 points away. I'm not in a league that takes 4, but I'm in one that takes 3 points away for an interception. So, I mean, even if they give you the 6 points for that touchdown, that's still 2 interceptions in the gate set. I mean, that's heavy. When you look at guys like Bortles, who's throwing 18.
18, yeah.
I mean, Rodgers probably only threw 18 in the last 3 seasons combined. I mean, that's pretty good.
All right, let's go to some.
It's one touchdown. I think I got to touch on one bear.
We got a borderline.
We got to touch on one bear in the studs. We got to do it because, I mean, Alshon Jeffrey, I think, has the capabilities of being a stud.
He's being drafted as a stud.
But I just don't know. I mean, I do. I mean, he's clearly the best offensive player on the Chicago Bears.
Hands down.
Hands down. I mean, Mickey Mouse hands down. But he is still.
He's only had one season in double-digit touchdowns, and that was 10, so that was barely getting there. And the main thing is those soft tissue problems. He just can't stay on the field.
I mean, if he can stay and play 16 games, he's gonna be looking to get 170, 180 targets, I think, from J-Rock. If he can stay on the field for 16 games, and Jay can stay healthy too, because that's kind of a problem too.
And I know it was a small sample size of what we saw last year without Brandon Marshall, but if you take his averages, they were pretty similar to when Marshall was there. It wasn't like Marshall's gone, this guy explodes into that wide receiver one role.
He missed a bunch of games to start the season. He never really had the opportunity to really harness, take harness of it. But even when he comes,
he was back, his averages were about the same as when Marshall was in there.
Yeah,
I know he had lingering problems all season, but
Forte's gone. Martellus Bennett's gone. I mean, Zach Miller's there, but I don't think he's as good as
Zach Miller might be the second best target in this offense.
Yeah, that's insanity.
But that's reality.
That's very bad Chicago Bears.
That is reality
That is reality. I don't believe in Kevin White in the slightest. He kind of looked like a bum Saturday. I don't like it.
He looked so bad. They even gave him the ball on a screen pass, and he drops it.
Oh, my goodness.
It wasn't even a screen pass where it was out wide. This guy was next to the quarterback.
I'm so scared for my Chicago Bears this year. I really am. I think we might be staring at 5'11", 6'10" Bears. And I don't like to say it, but my God, we look bad out there, Bears. All right, what's moving on?
Let's go to the bums.
Oh, we got to talk about them dirty bums. We always do. We gotta make sure you don't even think about touching them people. And I know somebody might say their name and try to make you feel good about it. Maybe you heard their name somewhere else on the internet. But I'm telling you right now, these guys are undraftable.
These might be some of my favorite bums that we've talked about.
They're dirty bums. We're gonna start out with some Kyle Reindeer Games Rudolph. Now let's talk about serious bumnicity. He has 356 yards a season in his 5-year NFL career.
Not even averaging 400.
And he's been the hype train man. Oh, we're bringing in Norv Turner. The tight end whisperer, and he's gonna do nothing. That's what he's gonna do, because he's the reindeer game.
In his career,
this is gonna be insane.
in his career, he has had 1,700 yards.
You ready?
There were 2 wide receivers last year alone
Antonio Brown and Julio Jones.
that had more yards than him in his 5-year career.
Oh my God. That is ridiculously garbage filth. I mean, he's only had 100-yard game ever.
In his career.
Ever. We're talking ever.
That's enough of them. We're done with them.
He only had 1 year over 50 catches. I mean, all right, golden shovel's done. He's dead. He's buried. I mean, 1 game over 100 yards in his NFL career. I mean, if that's not enough to scare you away. I mean, if that's not telling you not to draft this guy, I don't know what to say. Because this is just filth. And we're moving on to more filth. And this filth's coming out of Green Bay. We're talking about Devontae Adams.
How strong was that hype train last year?
Oh, man. Jordy went down. People started taking him anywhere from the 3rd to the 6th round, and it was just insane.
They were loving on him. They loved him.
They were like, oh, he's going to be the man. I mean, how couldn't he? Aaron Rodgers is
Aaron
throwing
Rodgers
the ball.
needs some guy. Jordan's gone.
I mean, Aaron Rodgers was trying to throw him the ball, but it wasn't working out. He had 10 catches in 1 game, but Aaron Rodgers had to throw it to him 21 times to get there.
In that game, 21 targets. Got you 17 points.
17 points on 21 targets. I mean, I might be able to do that. I mean, probably not, but my God, I'd give it a shot.
And with that hype train, 1 touchdown.
Well, 1 touchdown. The hype train rolled into town and dropped off 1 touchdown.
Less than 500 yards.
50% catch rate. I mean, everything you got to say about this guy is complete bumitude. I mean, this guy is just... I mean, if you go out there this year and you think you're like, oh, this guy, oh, you know, I can get him at a value. Don't even bother. Like, seriously.
Like, I've seen some projections.
Get yourself Jeff Janis if you must have.
I've seen some people projecting him more points than what he had last year.
That's just ridiculous.
Last year, he had all the opportunity in the world, and look what he did it. 1 game, he had 11 targets. He got you 2 catches.
You know who shut him down in that 1 game with 11 targets and 2 catches? You know who that was? The Bears. How you doing? You gonna catch 2 balls on 11 targets against the Chicago Bears? I mean, Bears aren't show-stopping main event defenses either, and they're putting it down on Devontae Adams. I mean, I think... That's writing him off. He was, oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
11 games.
Oh.
11 games where he got you 3.4 points or less.
Oh.
11. 2/3.
And he was arguably the 2nd wide receiver for Aaron Rodgers that whole time.
Almost 3/4 of the season.
Oh.
He would get you less than 4 points.
Oh, the bum song. I mean, that is just these
that
2 bums
is so
we
dirty.
did.
I feel like I need to take a shower.
I might have to. Because these bums are the filthiest that we've reported on so far. They really are.
All right. We'll talk about some stock rises here. What's some guys looking good, bringing their stocks up here?
I mean, not necessarily looking good. But just
in pure of where he's
Matt Forte left town, so Jeremy Langford is the clear-cut running back 1 for the Bears, and he is. He went out there, he played.
He's looking pretty respectable, pretty decent in preseason.
In a dress rehearsal, 3rd preseason game, he left he was on the first wave of players that left that game in the 2nd quarter. So he played all those first-team reps that he should have. They weren't substituting him, but I don't know if he's going to be the guy, even if he does have the opportunity. The Bears' offensive line is not good. We've even lost our center for the year.
It might be the worst offensive line in the entire league.
I mean, I know I love him, but that is... I mean, I think they're at least bottom 5, and he only had 3.6 yards of carry on a better line last year. We had a better line than we did this year, people. We do.
Even last year.
We did. I mean, we had a better line last year than we did this year. He only averaged 3.6 yards a carry.
Last year, he only had 3 games where he averaged over 4 yards.
That is not savory.
3 games on the season.
That is not savory in the slightest.
Even people getting extremely limited action can get you 4 yards a carry in over 3 games. There's guys I'm sure that have averaged 5 carries a game better than that.
I mean, the guy only really had 2 good games. I mean, he had 324 yards in those 2 games I was just talking about, and that was 40% of his yearly total. I mean, that's like kind of what Devontae Freeman did in those 4 games, but even on a
like
worse level.
Than Freeman.
A worse level. I think the 5th round draft position, I think there's other guys you can get there. I think I'd take Jeremy Hill over him all day, and he's going around later.
I think Jeremy Hill's about almost a full round later, and I would take him over Langford every day of the week.
I mean, I think you have to at this point. I'd take Melvin Gordon over him, I think, and he's going like 2 rounds later. I just think, I don't know. I mean, opportunity might be there at the Bears' offensive line and just how it goes. If he's not, he better be getting catches. Because if he's not getting 50, 60 catches, I just don't think it's going to be good. I don't think the touchdowns are going to be there.
I don't think his yards per carry is going up at all.
No. And it can't, I mean, is it going to go to 4.5? Because that's what it's going to take for him to be a top 10, top 12 fantasy running back. And I don't think it is. What else we got on some risers?
I like both of the Lions receivers now. Calvin Johnson's out of town. Golden Tate's been doing it last couple of years. Over 90 balls.
90?
He had a 99 catch year.
90 and 99 the last 2 seasons with Calvin Johnson.
But Marvin Jones, he's doing some work out there.
I mean, Marvin Jones, they came out and they said Marvin Jones looks like the wide receiver 1A and Golden Tate looks like the wide receiver 1B. And I know that's the most coach speak thing I've ever said in my life. But still, I mean, that's some praise. I mean, the guy has a 10-touchdown season under his belt with Cincinnati under A.J. Green. I mean,
last year, he put up very respectable numbers with A.J. Green. And you're telling me this year, the only guy he's got to beat out is Golden Tate?
I mean, I think Golden Tate's going to cover him by 20, 30 balls. I think it's going to be 70 to 100 in the reception. But I think this guy might be able to take Tate by like 100 or 200 yards. And I think he can cover him by 4 or 5, maybe even 6 touchdowns.
I don't even know if Tate's getting you 10 yards a catch last season.
I think he got like 9 yards a catch last year, like Jarvis Landry yards per catch territory.
And Marvin Jones can easily double him in touchdowns.
And like Landry, Golden Tate isn't really getting in the end zone either. Was he had like 4 or 5 last year? Not showcasing.
Like I said, he can double him in touchdowns this year.
I think Marvin Jones will go out there and get you 8, 9, 10 touchdowns, and Golden Tate's looking at 5 or 6.
And Golden Tate's going about the 4th round. Marvin Jones, he's what, 6? Somewhere in there?
So I've seen him go in the 4th round of a redraft the other week. Now that's paying the piper, and that's insane. I would never, ever do that. But he's usually going around the end of the 7th round, I'd say.
Yeah, 6th, 7th. So you're talking a full, at least good 2 rounds later for a guy who very well could have the same production, if not better.
He could easily lead in 2 of the 3 major categories in yards and touchdowns.
I think you can sew up Golden Tate having more catches. I mean, the guy is averaging 95 balls over the past couple of years, and that's with Calvin Johnson.
Oh, I think you can write Golden Tate down. If he plays 16 games, he's getting 100 balls. He's getting 100 balls. That's happening.
But I think they're both good options, and they're rising. They're getting up there.
Oh, Jim Bob Cooter offense. I mean, they're doing this no huddle thing. I mean, I think it's a real deal. I know Jim Bob Cooter sounds like a cartoon character, but apparently Matt Stafford likes the flow of his offense and likes the cut of that jib. And if that's the case, these 2 guys could return wide receiver 2 value to you, both of them.
And Stafford, too, he's going so late you can just take him whenever you want him. But he's not a bad quarterback to play to have. I mean, he's got some huge yards seasons under his belt.
I mean,
this
last
guy can
year,
do it.
I mean, last year people thought he had a trash year, but he still had 32 touchdowns. I mean, that's not laughable. That's decent. And that's like what? Tied for fifth, 6th in the NFL.
I mean, the touchdowns and yards, I feel like, are always going to be there for Stafford. It's just if he's on the field.
I mean, I know Calvin Johnson's a big deal for Stafford, but maybe he was trying to force it to Calvin too much out there. Like, maybe the spreading the love situation is good for Matthew Stafford. Maybe not forced to stare at one guy all the time. I mean, defenses don't know what to do really anymore. And what are you going to do, double Golden Tate on the slide? I mean, that's a reach.
Let's get into some fallers here. Give him those arrows.
Oh, we got him. All right.
First faller, Last year, this guy was the talk.
I mean,
Even a few weeks ago this year, this guy was the talk.
until I saw him on Saturday, I wasn't even convinced he was a real person. And we're talking Kevin White. What do you go, 7 overall in the NFL draft this year?
Last year.
Still doesn't have a regular season catch. Still hasn't played a snap in the regular season. And he looked raw out there. Like, they're talking about Sammy Coates being raw in Pittsburgh. I'm telling you, Kevin White is way raw.
He couldn't even catch a layup that was thrown to him.
It was rough. Like, I'm afraid, Bears. Like, who are we gonna go to after Alshon Jeffrey? If Alshon Jeffrey gets hurt, what's gonna happen, Bears?
Kevin White's going about the 7th, 8th round. I'm sure now he's getting way deep.
I'm afraid this guy could get Devontae Adams targets and still suck. Like, I know the talent is supposedly there, but I haven't seen it.
He played one side of the field in college, and it's a whole new ballgame when you get to the NFL. You don't just say, "All right, this play, you're going straight, bro. You're going all the way."
That's crazy to me. You're gonna come at me. You're gonna say, "I don't know. I'm not good at running route." What do you mean you're not good at running route?
What's an option route?
I gotta be on this side of the field. No, dude, you do what you tell us, because otherwise you're riding a pine. Like this guy.
I think Zach Miller could be a legitimate threat in that offense there.
That is crazy. I mean, if Zach Miller is a second guy for targets in this offense, then that could be real.
I think him and Langford will be fighting it out.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be real close. I mean, Bears. I hope for the best, but I just don't think anything's going good for us this year at all.
All right, a faller here. This is a guy, Cheeseburger Eddie. He was top 3 fantasy pick overall last year, top 5 at worst in most drafts.
Averaging 12 touchdowns in his first 2 seasons. I mean, that's boss hogging.
And averaging about 1,500 yards total in his first 2 seasons. So you're thinking this guy is sure can get top 5 fantasy pick.
I drafted him in one league, and he did not pay. I mean, it was gross.
Now, even this year, he's going like as a late 2nd, early 3rd, which doesn't seem like that much of a fall. But his season was a bust for the record books.
I mean, let's get into it. This is just bad news. Last year, he had 7 games under 6.1 fantasy points in PPR worse. Like, that's terrible.
That's half the season.
That's terrible.
That's half the season.
That's
He's
so
getting
bad.
you 6.1.
It took him till week 12 to get you 18 fantasy points.
We're talking
And by
about
then,
an RB1.
you probably benching him by then. Like, you didn't even see that. Oh my goodness! I mean, this is so bad, people. This is so bad. In his first 8 games, he only had 60 fantasy points in PPR. That is 7.5 points a game.
For first round.
For a top 3 overall pick, he's offering up 7.5 points a game in the first half of the season? Like, that's vomit. Like, I might drive to his house and confront him.
Like, write him a letter.
I'm writing him a letter. Like, this has gone too. You owe me money. Like, this is crazy. And I mean, even the last games, he didn't even turn it on either. I mean, he had 81.5 over the last 7, and that's only 11.5 a week. I mean, it's not like
for the whole season he averaged you less than 10.
Yeah, like close to 9 fantasy points a game on the season.
And this is what's crazy.
He didn't resurrect nothing. He had a couple good games that you didn't even start him on because he'd been such a bum.
And this is what's crazy. He's going as a 2nd round pick, late 2nd to early 3rd. And you want to know the only reason why? It's because he's on P90X.
P90X. P90X. It's come down to infomercial workout tapes to get this guy to think like, seriously, millions of dollars isn't enough to think maybe I should be in shape and try to be a good football player? You gotta have P90X to inspire you? I think millions of dollars would done me. I'm not in shape, but you offer me that word, be like, hey, man, I'll give you $500,000. Watch me start doing sit-ups right now. I'll start doing them I'll start doing them on podcast. I'll start doing sit-ups on podcast. I remember $500,000. We'll do sit-ups until you tell me to stop. You know what I'm saying?
But that's it. That's the only thing that he has going for him right now. If you look at his season last year, why is he going in the second or third round?
I wouldn't touch him. Why?
What has he shown on the field that he's worth the second or third round?
I don't even like. I know he's had a decent yards per carry in the preseason, but I'm afraid of smoke and mirrors. Like, he did this to me before. Like, I mean, I hate Doug Martin, and I think he's going like a full round later, and I'd probably take him over him. And I hate Doug Martin. I really do. He had the golden shovel segment on Doug Martin, the other show.
I mean, Lacey could go out there and do it. But what he showed us last year, I can't even think about him at that price.
Like, Lacey's going around guys like Demaryius Thomas. Like, I know, like, Demaryius Thomas doesn't have anybody throwing to him, but he didn't have anybody throwing to him last year either. Noodle Arm Manning.
And he had a quiet 100-catch, 1,000-yard season last year.
I mean, if you're talking about pure floor drafting, I mean, that's ridiculous.
That's as good as it gets.
Demaryius Thomas is, I mean,
that's incredible.
Eddie Lacy's on, like, the below your basement dug up, and Demaryius Thomas's floor is, like, in your attic or third floor situation. Like, this is crazy.
If you're looking at a guy like Jeremy Hill, last year Jeremy Hill and Lacey both had, you'd say, down years, right?
But at least Jeremy Hill is a startable fantasy option.
Jeremy Hill had 10 touchdowns last year. And you're saying it's a down year, and this is a guy who's going 3 to 4 rounds later?
3 to 4 rounds later. Like,
and it's
why?
Because
Eddie Lacy plays for the Packers? That's the only reason in my mind. Like, so what? Like, if Jordy Nelson, like, can't get back to his pre-injury form, like, what's to say the Packers don't do exactly what they did last year? I mean, their O-line get much better? I don't think it did. I mean, that's just terribleness. Oh, we got a little visitor. We got a little tater visitor. All right, we got one more thing to do, taters.
Let's get into some values.
We got into some values, and we only got one guy here because we already touched on Stafford a little bit. Let's hit you up with some of these value guys, you know what I'm saying? Well, we got boom.
Hi, tater babe.
Now, we're going to talk Amir Abdullah. And I mean, the only reason why I really think he's a value, because I think he's the easiest path to taking over a starting job in the NFL, that's going in the 8th, 9th round of fantasy leagues.
I mean, he's going solo. I can't see Theo Reddick catching 80 balls. I can't see Theo Reddick catching 80 balls this year.
No. I mean, if Abdullah...
We all know that we love you.
If Abdullah can somehow get goal line work over the bum city of Zach Zinner and hold on to the football and maybe add a few more receptions, if you're getting 8th, 9th round return on this guy,
this is a guy, he could have 1,000 total yards easy.
I mean, he could return RB3, RB2 value to you in the 8th, 9th round.
If he's getting drafted on your team as your 4th, even 5th running back, if you're going heavy. I mean, he can be a bye week guy. He could go into your starting lineup. He can find his way in there.
If you're looking to start taking flyers after you got your starting lineup filled out, he's on top of my list as far as running backs go.
All right, let's see about guys he's going around. There's actually a lot of good flyers that I like. He's going around Charles Sims. Everyone knows I'm a big Charles Sims fan. I love his upside.
Derrick Henry
has looked like the total package so far. 8th, 9th round is where you can get some ballers out there.
I think I'd take Abdullah just a little bit over Sims just because he doesn't need an injury to necessarily take over the starting role and be a featured back. He just needs to hold on to the football and be a little better. I mean, he did pretty good over the end of the last season.
Yeah, Abdullah is a guy, like we said, those 3 names there, he's the only guy who has the best clear-cut way of being your fantasy starter.
Yeah, he doesn't need injury to do it. He just needs to do it. He just has to beat himself, really. He's playing against himself out there. I mean,
that it, baby?
I think that does her up. Tater's busting out his leg, all licky face.
Thanks again for watching. Make sure you subscribe, like our videos, comment, let us know what you think. Also, Email us your questions.
TakersFantasyFootball@gmail.com. Tater says bye.
See you later.
Tell him bye, Taters.